So I'm here at laundry. I'm doing my laundry, but I have like 19 minutes to spare. So I'm like, let me try to give some steps to you guys just to, how can you actionable steps of how you can kind of like get more in touch with your inner knowing, with yourself, right? Um, just clear up any confusion and give like actionable stuff because a lot of the times people talk about it and talk about it, but it's like, okay, but how, right? So it is a process, right? A lot of it comes with doing a lot of looking at facing yourself, right? Looking at the things that you really don't would rather not look at. Um, and with healing not being linear, like it's gonna be a continuous process of just over and over again, just kind of like facing yourself, right? So it's not something that's quick, right? But it is something that is worth it, right? Because at the end of the day, the more you're in flow and the more you're connected to yourself and your intuition, one, the harder you are to manipulate, right? Because you can see on a level that's more than just what's presented to you, right? You can see things that are what's being hidden, right? Half truths, things like that, where you're being misled, what doesn't feel right, and what you shouldn't really go towards or invest in. And then there's another way where when you increase your inner knowing and your intuition, not only are you harder to manipulate, but you become in harmony with not only yourself but with the world, right? Where because you're flowing, right? Think of it like a river, right? And I always think of it as like when you're resisting something, think of it as in the river, and instead of just letting the water take you, right? Being fluid like water, you kind of decide to, when there's like a random tree trunk in the water and let's say somebody gets caught in the tide or in the flow of the water and they're trying to not, it's dangerous. It feels dangerous. So they don't want to be in the flow of the water. So they cling to the tree trunk. It's like thrown on the side, trying to, I don't know, resist the flow. But by doing that, that's essentially what it means to resist yourself, resist the universe trying to guide you. Because when you're in flow, things are easy. Success doesn't have to be hard, right? That's why I say, like, a big part of getting back in touch with your intuition is getting back into flow. Because then you're not chasing anything and you're not resisting anything. You're kind of just accepting it for what it is and letting kind of like yourself and your intuition guide you to what you need to do, where you need to be, and how you should move, right? So resisting looks like holding on to the side and not wanting the water to kind of lead you downstream. And then chasing looks like sometimes you don't know when you're chasing something that you're going upstream. So it's almost like, let's say you're chasing anything really, right? But you're like tunnel vision on like, this is the way I have to do it, this is the way that it has to look, this is the way it has to turn out. And it's almost like you think you're going the right direction, right? But in terms of like the river analogy, you're literally, picture yourself like when you're trying to, have you ever tried to like walk through water or like sand, and how hard and difficult that is? So that's essentially what it feels like when you're chasing something. It's that difficulty of like, you're literally swimming against the current, right? Against the tide. And that's why it feels so difficult. And that's why if there's any point in your life where you feel like this is very, very difficult, it's because you have to ask yourself, like in this moment, in whatever aspect of my life. Am I chasing something? And is that why it feels so difficult? Because I'm not letting myself kind of release the need to control, and just kind of exist for a moment and be still and see, taking a second to see, like, where do I have to move, right? Where am I being guided to go? You might think, like, okay, I'm still, but I don't hear anything. Like, like, I'm not getting any guidance, right? And I think it takes time to really listen and hear, because your intuition, it can be difficult sometimes to differentiate between your intuition and anxiety, especially in this world, right? We've been kind of just, there's always something to do, right? There's always something to do. So that anxiety can sometimes become so constant, and you get into this state of being in survival mode, that you kind of just, you always have to do something. You always stay busy. And if you don't take time to be still, and if you don't, like, stop moving, then you can't fail. But that's where it really messes you up, because then you're always in survival mode. You're always in fight or flight, freeze or fawn. You're always waiting for the next shoe to drop. You're never really pursuing your desires. You're really just kind of like stuck in fear and in reacting to the world, instead of interacting with it and creating with it, right? So, yeah. I'm trying to see, because I wrote down some stuff from what I said before, and I'm like, let me see what the hell else I said. But yeah, so your intuition, it's always going to feel, like, clear. It's always going to feel calm. It's never in a rush. It's grounded. It's rooted. It's expansive. And trusting it is going to feel, in your body, it's going to feel right. Trusting your intuition is never going to require you to abandon yourself or harm yourself or go against yourself. It might push you outside of your comfort zone, right? And that might feel uncomfortable, but not to the point where you feel like rationally you're in danger, right? What else did I put on here? Yeah. So what I learned is that it's easier to trust yourself when you love yourself, right? So you have to start small when it comes to this process of kind of like coming back home to yourself, because it's easier to do the little things. Like, start to ask yourself, like, what is it that I really want to do? What is it that I really want? What is it that I really desire? Not what other people, right? What your parents, your friends, what society tells you should want. But what do you really want? Authentically, right? Because it's like, oh, how do I live authentically? Well, you live authentically when you follow your authentic desires, right? So it kind of goes back to going back to what you really wanted. And when I think of my authentic desires, oftentimes I think about myself like when I was a little kid, because it was just very authentic. Like, there was no conditioning. I didn't know yet what I was supposed to want or what I shouldn't be. I was just existing. So it's really, that's why they always say like inner child healing.